First, it's been a delight as always. Coming up after the 2 p.m. news, the Variety Hour with Theo Zagrafos.
Okay, Tokyo, South America, Australia, France, Germany, UK, Africa. Calling out around the world, are you ready for a brand new beat? Summer's here and the time is right for dancing in the street, dancing in Chicago, down in New Orleans, in New York City. All we need is music, sweet music. There'll be music everywhere. There'll be swinging, swaying, records playing, dancing in the street. Oh, it doesn't matter what you wear, just as long as you are there. So come on, every guy, grab a girl. Everywhere around the world, they'll be dancing in the street. It's an invitation across the nation, a chance for folks to meet. They'll be laughing and singing and music swinging, dancing in the street. Philadelphia, PA. Baltimore, Messina. Don't forget the Motor City. In the streets of Brazil. Back in the USSR. Don't matter where you are. All we need is music, sweet music. There'll be music everywhere. There'll be swaying, swaying, records playing, dancing in the street. Oh, it doesn't matter what you wear, just as long as you are there. So come on, every guy, grab a girl. Everywhere around the world, they'll be dancing in the street. Way down in LA, every day, dancing in the street. Crossing China too, me and you, dancing in the street.
It's a good version. It's a great version. Nice way to kick off the Variety Hour because we don't really know what's going to happen next. I've kind of got a bit of an idea because I've worked with this gentleman in front of me when I filled in for Dennis Walter on the 3AW nights between 8 and 12, Monday to Thursday, 7 to 12 Fridays, of course. Theo, good afternoon to you.
Hello.
I get your name right sometimes. Theo, I'm easy with. Zagrafos is about right, isn't it?
Perfect.
Yeah, good on you, mate. Good to see you. You well?
Good to see you. Well, it's a great day to go and dance on the street, I think.
Doesn't it feel lovely today?
Oh,
we've come in the shorts and isn't it nice not having to wear a puffer jacket today, Theo? For the first time in a while.
I did bring it because you never know with Melbourne, but I'm not wearing it. And, I can't wait to spend the rest of the Arvo outside as well.
I love your song selection. Mick Jagger, David Bowie. Who would have thought those two together? And they knocked that out of the park, didn't they?
The music video is great. The song is great. It's a cover, of course.
Martha and the Vandellas, I think, the original.
Yeah, absolutely. And two great performances. One of my favourite songs that who would have thought some local councillor listens to Bowie in his spare time. But I think it's great for radio as well. So that's why I picked it.
How's everything at Monash?
It's going well. Very busy as always. Gearing up for two successive meetings quite quickly. We've got the Christmas break, so we don't have the last Tuesday of the month in December. We sort of bring it forward a few weeks. So I just did my year in review article. And, of course, looking back, it was such a busy year. We had the bin collection changes that I've spoken to you about in previous months, and also a lot of different projects. And with the state election happening, we're getting all sorts of commitments for our local pavilion upgrades, etc. So it's a great time.
Are you a pork barrel area?
We do have a few marginal seats, so the answer is yes. And
Good.
I think the Premier was down our way today. I'm not sure exactly where he was, but he was announcing something. So, we will get a lot of attention.
That's good.
And it's great for our residents.
Good for you. Good for you.
Good for us, yeah.
Absolutely good for you. This is the time of the year too. We look at, they haven't done a nativity play, or we haven't done a Christmas party. You know, we always get the Herald Sun anytime soon. It'll be kindergartens, councils.
Tom Elliott.
No, never Tom. What they're doing, et cetera, et cetera. What are you doing and what aren't you doing? What's going on for Christmas this year? Because we're out of COVID. Yeah. We're all set to go.
We are back to normal, I should say. We're having our first carol since 2019
Great.
Down at Gels Park.
So,
nice. Everyone's welcome.
What a lovely venue.
Yeah.
What part of Gels Park?
Oh, now you're asking me. It's
because it's vast.
It's vast. We've got the same location every time. I have to get back to you on that.
Okay,
but
that's
it's perfect. We've got a massive stage. We usually get about 30 to 40,000 people.
Wow.
To come with their families. So that's our main keynote, I guess, Christmas event. But there's a few local ones down my way in Oakley. Many years ago, Grub initiated a Christmas tree to be our sort of centre point of the Oakley CBD. So we're going to unveil that in the lights. That's happening, I think, maybe next week from memory. So I'll go to that. And we usually have a few local children sing a few songs and that sort of thing. So that is happening next month and over the next few weeks. But we also, hopefully, if we've got great weather, our businesses and our cafes and restaurants will be thriving as well. And actually, as a coincidence, I'm having dinner tonight in Oakley with some friends, so that'll be great. And we had a Remembrance Day service earlier today in Oakley as well. So
good.
All those type of events are back to normal.
And that Oakley restaurant scene just seems to buzz, isn't it? We're talking Atherton Road.
That's it.
Warrigal Road.
You know your geography well. Eaton Mall is
the train station.
Correct.
That's foodie's paradise there.
We are very lucky, Grub, and I've been lucky to have a small role to play over the years. We've got some of the great, I guess, foodie destinations. So people actually come to Oakley to do those tours. They pay a ticket price and they get shown around. I'm dead serious. And I think we are very lucky as a council to, I guess, manage that space as well. And as a local resident over the years, I've seen it sort of evolve into what it is today. So if anyone's looking for a nice family-friendly area, go to Oakley. Of course, there are other parts of Melbourne that also exist, but putting my Monash Council hat on, I'm very proud of that.
And so you should be.
Yeah.
That is a fantastic area. If you'd come from the West, you'd be talking about the great Vietnamese food in Footscray.
Absolutely.
There are so many good areas in Melbourne. I think one of the things that makes us the envy of the world is you can go to a good restaurant at a good price anywhere in the entire city, spread of Melbourne, which spreads out enormously with our population of over 5 million now. And you can go anywhere, north, south, west, it doesn't matter. You have got a great foodie destination, doesn't matter where. But your Oakley is it's a little bit on the special side. Where are you dining tonight? What's going on?
I'm not going to say because then I'll be accused of picking favourites.
No, that's all right. Just say one of the really good ones in Oakley.
Well, I'm going to dinner tonight at Melissa.
Yeah.
With 4 other local councillors, actually, some friends from another council.
Yeah.
And the food there is amazing. Some of them have specialties on coffee or souvlaki or food or cakes, but I think Melissa's got a very good food menu. So that should be good. And, one day you and I will have a Greek coffee there as well.
Wouldn't mind.
A baklava as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you. My waistline thanks you enormously.
Yep.
Theo, what's on your mind today?
Look, there's a lot happening. I think, I was thinking about this as I was driving in, and I've got, you're not going to believe this, but on Wednesday I'm going to be on the telly on the show Hard Quiz. I'm a huge fan.
Are you?
Absolutely, as a contestant. I love that
with
show.
Tom Gleeson.
Yes, absolutely.
I had a dream about him last night.
Oh, goodness.
I did.
Okay.
I seriously did. He was all right in the dream. Yeah, continue. I know him quite well.
Yes, I thought you might say that. So, look, at the same time that it airs at 8 o'clock Wednesday, I'm going to be with Den at the exact same time.
Okay.
And, of course, I love Den's show, so I'm not going to not show up.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, moments in people's lives where something massive happens at the same time as something else,
Oh.
like Murphy's Law type of thing. It
Yeah.
sort of all just happens at the same time.
Ah.
So that's what's on my mind.
I like that. I like that. All right. Okay.
And so that's the first topic. The other thing I had to raise with you, Grub, I was at the Kelvin Club during the week and had a work event on, and I got talking to a member there who's been there maybe at least 30 years, maybe longer, and he was telling me that back in the 50s,
Yeah.
the Kelvin Club was actually the 3AW Studios.
Really?
This is off Little Burke in the CBD. So I got thinking, parts of Melbourne that, or buildings rather, or locations that are currently used for something that they were used for a different purpose in years gone by.
Okay. Was once.
Correct.
And now is.
Absolutely.
And these could be warehouses turned
Yep.
to apartments,
Yep.
or go figure, it's this now. I remember not that long ago sitting in my hairdresser, which is a Lara Hair Studio, where my hairdresser, she's just moved, but she had been working there for some time. They're in St Kilda Road, St Kilda, and past, Carlisle Street, sort of that area.
Mhm.
And I was sitting in there, and I was like, geez, I reckon I've been in here before. And I was looking around there, where have I been? And it was a pub that I'd
really?
been to in the 90s. And I think after a particularly big night, I actually got up and sung with the band. So it must have been a massive night. I got a vague sort of a headache and I smelt smoke. It was a different day. But yeah, it's now a hairdresser. It was a pub.
So from the outside, does it look like a pub?
Yeah,
At all?
well, yeah, I guess it does.
Right.
But
you weren't
but
really
it's a
focused.
hairdresser.
Yeah.
That's where I went in to, get this lot cut, and it's a job. When I come in, they say, come on, this is getting serious.
Well, I don't have any hair. So
I've got this. It's still going. But yeah, what was buildings that were, it was this.
Yep.
And now it's that.
One example, as you know, I'm into the political world, and one example that's not in Melbourne, but it's a high-profile example, Parliament House in Canberra. The old Parliament House used to be the key of politics. It's now a museum.
Yeah.
So those are type of things that maybe people might, come to us with.
Absolutely. What buildings around Melbourne have changed? They were once this, now they're that. When you were growing up, it was a such and such. Now it's go figure that. We'd love your calls on that. We'll get a really good geography of Melbourne, I bet you, from our listeners. 133693. Got a call from Michelle has called in. G'day, Michelle.
Hi, Grubby. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I'm just ringing about Eaton Mall in Oakley, where the gentleman's having dinner this evening.
Theo, yeah.
Not only is there beautiful restaurants there, but there's a little boutique called Ms. Shelley, which is mine. But I just wanted to let people know how fantastic it is in the mall.
Yeah.
And there's not only food, there's lots of gift stores, and there's some clothing stores to come, so you can shop and you can dine at the same time with a beautiful atmosphere.
Never get me out of there, Michelle. It sounds sensational. So what sort of shop's yours?
I have a little clothing boutique. We sell lots of beautiful, amazing clothes, very different, a lot of Italian clothes.
Yeah.
And we're open 7 days a week. And we're amongst all the restaurants. We're right opposite Melissa.
Yeah.
And you can't go wrong if you come in the mall for food, cakes, coffee and clothing.
I've heard cakes outstanding. My nephew married a Greek girl, and I think they live in the area, and he always talks about the cake shop in Oakley. Is there a particular one which is just beyond good? Without playing favourites, Michelle.
I can't take favourites, but you've got cakes at Melissa, you've got cakes at Vanilla.
Yeah.
Vanilla's very big. Melissa's got lots of cakes. They're all fresh, homemade every day.
Yeah.
And then, but all the food in Oakley is, you can't go wrong. There's not a lot of places anymore you can get really beautiful food and walk away from, but you can there. We
sound like we're headed there. Theo's going tonight. I'm going there anytime soon. Michelle, good to talk to you. More calls for Theo here, 133693. It's all part of the variety hour, so we never know what we're going to get. Buildings that once were this, now they are that. Tell us about what they were. Maybe when you were growing up, they were something, and now they're something. Go figure. There's something. Gee, they've made that into apartments. How did that work? When did that happen exactly? That sort of thing. And also, Theo's going to be on air with Dennis, but at the same time, he's on Hard Quiz. Good things happening. You're going to be able to watch yourself on TV and here.
That's right. I'm spewing that I'm not standing in the state election. This would have been great publicity.
Oh, you would have been on fire.
Yeah.
Your calls. We love them after the break. 133 693.
The Weekend Break with Peter Grubby Stubbs on 3AW 693.
Theo's of Graphos. It's usually with Dennis Walter. Sometimes he's on the telly at the same time he's with Dennis Walter. Gee, that's going to be a dilemma for you. I tell you what, Theo. He's from the Monash Council. He comes in, has a chat. This is the Variety Hour. 133 693 is the number to ring. When have you double booked? I mean, it's a classic double booking that you've really got, haven't you? You're on television. You're a bit excited about that.
Yep.
But you're on with Den at the same time. Will you be talking to Dennis, but having the microphone swung around? And could we just flick the monitor in onto and see how you're going?
Yeah. I'll bring my 2 laptops and have the monitor on, and I'm sure I'll get lots of text messages as we're on air. But it's going to be a bit of fun, and Dennis, I think, will mention it. I would expect.
You'll be
we'll
right.
probably see how we're going, and
it's a classic double booking.
Yeah.
You want to be in 2 places at once.
well, of course, when it was taped, it was actually taped last year. There was no expectation that I'll be a contributor at that particular time every second Wednesday at 8:00. So it's funny how the world works.
All of a sudden, you're booked out. And buildings in Melbourne that have become something else. They were once something, and now they're, figure that. Look at they've made into that. And there's a lot of buildings around Melbourne. And, look, they've done apartments. I mean, some of these extraordinary warehouses, particularly, I think, Flemington and Collingwood and places like that. They're a wool store. Now they're lovely houses.
But Grub, even this building used to be the Age offices.
Yeah.
And they've moved out as well.
Yeah.
So that's one example, and they've still got their logo on the front of the building.
That's right.
So there are many other examples, and I mentioned Parliament House, I guess, in Canberra. But for me, there used to be the old, when I joined the Liberal Party when I was a teenager, and the old Liberal Party headquarters used to be on Exhibition Street, and that's now, I think they're building a new apartment complex there as well.
Yeah.
So there's all types of examples, and I think it's progress, right?
Yeah.
It is progress. But also, are we documenting all this, and is there some way that we can document it moving forward? Because people should know about the history of our city.
Absolutely, what this building once represented.
Yeah.
Have one of those little. They do that in Port Melbourne. They've got
Right.
these blue plaques.
Okay.
And this was once because there was a pub on every corner in Port Melbourne. Obviously, because that's where the sailors went. And a lot of them are now apartments. And you can tell just by the way they've made. And they've come up really well. But there's a number of them. And there are stores. And, in some of our historic areas, there should be a plaque saying, well, this was originally the home of such and such. David, good afternoon to you.
Hi, gents. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, it's good. We, us guys, clump it a bit for not being romantic at times, but
Yes.
a mate of mine booked a dinner out for an anniversary for him and his wife at the same place that they first went out to.
Yeah, nice.
The problem was that it's now Spearmint Rhino.
Yeah, that's a shame.
Strip club.
Yeah, that's a shame. Yeah, that's a shame. Was once a romantic outing, is now a so-called gentleman's club, where I don't think many gentlemen actually attend the club unless you're a Hell's Angel or something. David, that's a great story. What was Spearmint Rhino? What was the restaurant originally? Because I think, that was that end of King Street. What was it?
Yeah.
Can you?
Can't remember what it was, but I know there was definitely a restaurant of some type.
Yeah, there was. I'm pretty sure there was.
That reminds me of
Thanks, David.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
the old Press Club restaurant, which isn't around anymore. George Columbar. It used to be the Herald Sun office.
That's right.
Now it's another restaurant. I forget.
I went to it because my first ever job was just up from that old Herald Sun building. The building's still there. I think it was owned by the Herald Sun, and I was in the fashion industry in those days. And I remember that. But I went to the press club a few years ago, and that looked fantastic, the way that had done out. But there's a lot of older buildings in the city, particularly, and down Flinders Lane, where a lot of old rag trade warehouses would have been, which are now cafes and restaurants. But we should have, this was once a certain place. Some places have been there forever, but there's a lot of buildings where they should. I tell you, I'm just trying to think of an incident some years ago. That's right. It was the 1981 Brownlow Medal count, which I love watching. And that year, Barry Round was up with a big chance. And this was South Melbourne's last year in Melbourne before they went to Sydney, and there was a bit of angst about that. Barry Round and Bernie Quinlan tied for the Brownlow Medal that year. But my daughter, my first child, was born on that very day.
Oh, goodness.
Okay. Now, she was born, and I do remember, and you're in hospital. I think we're in St. Vincent's Private, and they're very good food there. So I ended up having, we had a lovely baby girl, Emma, and I got to watch the Brownlow as well. It sorted itself out.
Yeah.
The timing was immaculate. She was born at about 4:30 in the afternoon.
Yeah.
So we had time to have a bit of a baby bond, get everyone rested, order a bit of dinner.
Yeah.
The baby was fine. The Brownlow was on the telly.
But it wasn't as intense as the Brownlow count, was it? 'Cause
No.
that was a tie.
Well, it was a tie. In the end.
Yeah.
It was a tie. So it was terribly tense. Bernie Quinlan tied with his great mate Barry Round of the 1981. I had my lovely little daughter. I left the hospital a very happy man that night. I thought, gee, what a good day.
Well, congratulations on Emma's birth those years ago. Was it a live broadcast
41.
back then?
Yeah.
Back then?
Yeah, it was. I think the first one, I think the first TV broadcast could have been, 1970 when Peter Bedford won. And I think it was at the Dallas Brooks Hall, and I think it was men only.
Because the the VFL used to be, it wasn't always live, was it?
No.
So you would have like a grand final on replay.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
That's right. I think the first live was 1977, because I was terrified nobody would roll up.
Another draw, wasn't it?
Yeah. So they had the replay in 77. Collingwood and North Melbourne. Sorry, Collingwood supporters for the reminder, but that was the first time, because they were terrified nobody would roll up. Of course, oh gee, I could watch on telly. I won't go to the game. No, it's okay. It's all worked out well for everybody.
Yep.
Theo Zagrafis is here with the Variety Hour and asking you the question: is there a building that you are familiar with around town that's was something, but now it's something else? And what's your association with it? What have they made that old building into? 133 693. And have you ever sort of double booked something? What about people that book weddings on grand final day? What's that all about?
There's the old joke where, this person's getting married on this particular time on this day, do you want the ticket to the wedding or to the grand final, of course, because the groom supposedly doesn't go to his own wedding because his team's in the grand final.
That's right.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It hasn't happened to me, although I did work back when I was a teenager. I had a weekend job at the Prahran Market. And Collingwood was in the grand final. This was 2010. And I made the mistake of working and trying to watch the game as I'm working, right? There was a TV in the deli that I worked at.
Can't do both.
Of course, they drew. So the next Saturday, I said to my boss, sorry, I'm sick today. I'm not going to stay home.
I'm unwell. Yeah. Gee, so lucky you didn't, working in the deli. Can you carve some ham and just watch the last few minutes of the last quarter?
Yeah. Oh, God. That was an intense day. Right?
Oh, somewhat.
Yeah.
Somewhat. Stevie Milne, the bounce.
That's it.
Boy, things would have been very different. Ross Lyon would have been a premiership coach.
I'm very grateful that they pumped the ball up, that way they did it on that day.
Yeah, got it back for Wayne Harms in 1979. This is the Variety Hour. Sorry to remind you. Theo Zagrafis is here asking a few questions, and we'd love your calls, 133 693.
You're listening to The Weekend Break with Peter Grubby Stubbs on 3AW 693.
It's the Variety Hour, so you'd never know what you're going to get. 133 693, we're asking the question today with Theo. The building that was once this, and now it's that. And usually it works. I like Theo, buildings that keep the facade of, the original. Because once a building's knocked down, and Will and the Wrecker and our good councillors in those days, 50s and 60s, just knocked down everything.
Oh, there was a
because
lot of-
Melbourne was considered old and we can't have an old-looking city. People are coming for the Olympics will be ashamed. So all these beautiful places were knocked down, and but now we prefer to retain at least the facade, don't we? Which is good.
They've got this thing called the heritage overlay, which they probably didn't have in the 50s back then. So
No.
I think overall it works well.
Knocked them down without even thinking about it. George has called in. George, good afternoon to you.
Yeah, good day, Gravy. How are you?
Good, thank you.
I'll just let you know, the Spearmint Rhino, I think before that was the Grain Storm.
Yes, it was the grain store, and probably would have been a lovely place to go out and eat. But
Well, it was. It was there to have a few drinks there, and then on the way home, you'd drop into the Fox and Hounds for a couple of refreshers, and then catch the train home.
yes, look, sounds like you've organised yourself a good night, George. I haven't entered the doors of Spearmint Rhino, not really my scene, but those who go there must love it, and good on them. Whatever happens there, I have no idea. But thank you, George. The grain store, that does certainly ring a bell. It's interesting what things change into, really, isn't it? And we'd like some more calls on this. 133693 was once my hairdresser was once a pub. Billy, good afternoon to you.
And good afternoon to your lovely voice. I remember, I've got two things to say, one about the Brownlow and one about the old memories.
Yeah.
Is it the Regent Theatre that's in Collins Street?
Yes.
There?
Yeah.
Well, underneath it, there used to be another theatre. I think it was called the Metro.
The Plaza. It was the Plaza just underneath
the
there.
Plaza.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, alongside that building, there was an alleyway, but on the corner, there was this most beautiful shop that sold milkshakes.
Oh.
But they were all men.
Yes.
All men with white aprons on.
Yep.
But they used to line the glass with marshmallow.
Yes.
And then they
No, it wasn't Hague's. Wasn't Hague's, was it? What's the name of that place?
I don't know.
Someone will
I
know.
was only a teenager then.
Yeah.
I'm in my 90s now. But I was there the night that Barry won that medal.
Yeah.
And it was at the Southern Cross.
Yes. Yep.
And I rang his mother to tell her. And I could tell you where Ron received his.
Yeah.
He received his at the Melbourne Cricket Ground on Grand Final day.
Yeah.
And he only got one ticket to go in, and I stood outside. And he went in, and a kind gentleman came up to me and said, "Oh, you look a bit, and I should have told him what was happening."
Yes.
And he gave me a lady's ticket.
Yeah.
And I went in the gate, and I passed it back to him when I got in.
Yeah.
And then Ron came down the stairs. But he received it all on his own.
Extraordinary.
With no fanfare, nothing,
Well, we are talking 1949 here, Billy. Theo, Billy is the widow of one of the greatest footballers of all time. We talk of number 23 for South Melbourne, the great Ron Clegg, and won the Brownlow in 1949 as a very young man, of course. And that's a great story, Billy. And look, lovely to talk to you, and always a pleasure when I see Billy Clegg, who in her 90s, gee, she sounds about 53.
Very, very sharp is Billy.
Good on you, Billy.
Billy mentioned the Metro.
Yep.
I think you mentioned the Metro because Billy mentioned the Regent, which is not
Yeah.
the Metro. But the Metro that's the one on Burke Street, isn't it? Yes.
Up the top. Yeah.
I don't know what it is now, but it obviously used to be a
Nightclub.
Mhm. I always thought, so many years ago, I spent some time in the States, Grubby, as a young student working on political campaigns, and I went on the Letterman shows in the audience, right,
Yeah.
which is at the Ed Sullivan
Oh,
Theatre.
wow.
I always thought the Metro would be great for
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that, a late night
Something
television
grand.
show
Yeah.
for the Melbourne or Australian audience.
Yeah.
It's a shame that it's not obviously used for that, but we don't really have that in Melbourne.
No.
That sort of hey type
Yeah.
thing anymore.
Yeah, well, there used to be the old Fitzroy Telly Theatre back in the day. I mentioned
Really?
it in the last hour because I saw
right.
the original production of the Rocky Horror Show there in the early 70s, and
Yeah.
they used to do variety shows there at the Telly Theatre. But no, we don't. Absolutely don't. Billy, great talking to you. Ron Clegg, my dad said he's the greatest footballer he'd ever seen. I saw him as a very, very young man. I just sneaked him.
What position?
Centre half back and centre half forward. Yeah. He was brilliant. Dark haired Ron Smoky Clegg. He was just outstanding. He took 23 marks in the game once against Fitzroy, and he was something else. And a great character. Anthony, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. You mentioned rugby before the 1977 Grand Final being the first televised Grand Final.
First live televised.
Yeah, first televised, yeah. You know, that was actually during a power strike, and in those days you couldn't watch TV only from 7 till 11 at night.
That's right.
The VFL paid, Channel 7 paid the VFL $100,000 to broadcast the game, and they had to get special dispensation from Rupert Hamer to allow TV to be watched at that time.
Extraordinary. It's a great story, Anthony, and thank you very much indeed. Yeah. Wow. That's different days. Thank you, Anthony. Ilva, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon. Love your show. That milk bar was called Hilliers.
Hilliers, of course it was. Hilliers, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that was
fantastic to go to. My mother used to take me there as a little girl, and I'd get an ice cream. It was fantastic.
Yeah, the people still absolutely rave about it, and I was probably taken there as a really young kid. And quite often you'd go over there, you'd have school speech night at the town hall, and you'd go over there after that. Was a bit of a tradition. But, yeah, it was something. And a place like that should be still going.
What's there now, sorry?
Well, it's just the Regent Theatre. There's a bit of a lane. The Plaza Theatre. Or there's
is that event space?
Yeah, okay. That's right. And then the West End Hotel, and then the City Square that never really worked anyway, but they're building new stuff there now. Hilliers. Yeah, what a wonderful Melbourne institution that was. And it should be still there. And that was a quintessential Melbourne place. Thank you, Ilva. Good to talk to you. Lola, good afternoon to you.
Hi, it was frosted chocolate. It was absolutely beautiful. And Ambrose Palmer, the boxer, he used to tell his daughter, go up and get the girls, and we lived in Errol Street in Middle Footscray. I'm going into town, do they want a frosted chocolate?
Great.
And Ambrose would take us in for a frosted chocolate. They were the absolute best. And why he never got a mention that he was John Famechon's boxing coach, I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. And an absolute legend of the game, Lola. And that's a lovely story. Thank you so much. Frosted chocolate, love it. Kay, good afternoon to you.
Yes, we used to go to Hilliers when our dad went to Henry Buck Sale.
Yep.
He used to take us for a Sunday at Hilliers.
Yeah, that's special.
And it had a gold thing where you could put your feet near the ground.
Yeah.
And it was very delicious.
Oh, yeah. Oh, look, everyone's raved about Hilliers. And these were the days, Theo, when people would dress up to go into the city.
Yes.
You know, you see pictures of lovely Kodachrome photographs of Melbourne in the 50s, and the women are in their beautiful dresses, and blokes are in shirt and tie and all of that. No, tracky dacks.
Well, I was talking to someone here a few months ago. People that were doing what your job is, a broadcaster, would have to dress up to be on air.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. I mean, you've seen me in my dinner suit now, and a good thing too. Kay, that's lovely. Thank you. It's the Variety Hour. So you call in 133 693. Old buildings that are now something else again. Or occasionally when you've actually double booked for something, you've had a big event on all at the same time. What have you done about it? How have you managed? 133 693.
You're listening to The Weekend Break with Peter Grubby Stubbs on 3AW 693.
Where the people are so gay, twisting the night away.
This is the Variety Hour, and Theo Zagrafis from Monash Council has joined me today, and just looking at some of the old buildings that are now something else. And you could never have imagined it when they were in their original guise, Theo. How could they make it into how could this become that?
Yeah.
But architects do wonderful things.
Well, there was in the Herald Sun this week, they were looking at 2030 Melbourne.
Yeah, I saw that.
Now I'm thinking, what will the buildings of today be in 20, 30 years or maybe even longer?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the ones that have really lasted, the ones that are built to last, the solid ones, then that's where I've loved seeing facades and everything retained, because the landscape of the city hasn't changed. If you're going to knock down everything, they're gone forever. Merle, good afternoon to you and welcome.
Good afternoon. Lovely show.
Thank you,
Robbie. What's the subject on pub quiz?
Right. Well,
don't know.
No, look, I just have to. I can only give you the options. Let's do that because the ABC is going to come after me. So it's either one of these. Okay. So it's either Love Actually, the movie, Republican China, Eddie Maguire, or Phantom.
Now you're a Collingwood supporter.
Yes, I am a Collingwood supporter.
So you might know a bit about Eddie Maguire.
Could be, but also love my, politics. So it could be Republican China.
Yeah, it could be easily.
I'm also a big film buff, and Love Actually does have a Polly.
Yeah, he's kept us guessing, Merle. He's kept us guessing.
What do you think it is, Merle?
What do you reckon?
I think it might be Phantom.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And building, Scrubby.
Yeah.
What about Kentridge?
Yes.
Kentridge is my little apartment.
Right. It's a complete. Would you want to live where Chopper Read did his best work? But it's a beautiful setup at Pentridge. It's magnificent.
I've never actually been.
I've had a look through. It's magnificent. There's theatre and everything there. It's wonderful.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've never been when it was Pentridge. I just want to say that right here and now. But Merle, they'd never knock a building like that over. But an extraordinary development. What was once and now is. It's a beautiful place to live. Fabulous. I know someone that lives there and they love it. Good to hear from you, Merle. Aaron, good afternoon to you.
Yeah, g'day, mate. How you going?
Good.
Hey, I was just going to say, the old Herald building on Flinders Street.
Yeah.
My brother used to work there, going back many years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what that actually got turned into. Do you know the one on Flinders Street?
I certainly do. Well, I mean, it was the restaurant was downstairs.
Was that the Wellington? Not the Wellington, no?
No. George Colin Barras restaurant was downstairs. But I think it's probably apartments now, Theo, is it?
I don't know what's above. No, I don't. Sorry, have no idea.
Yeah, but certainly not the Herald Sun. And but yeah, I certainly will remember when that was. Thank you, Aaron. Pam, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Grubby. I was just going to let you know that there's a movie called The Lost City of Melbourne that I saw a couple of weeks ago, and I see it's still on in a couple of places.
Pam,
and it's absolutely fascinating.
It is wonderful. I have seen it, and we've interviewed the maker a number of times. Dee Dee's interviewed him, I've interviewed him, and I think probably Dennis has as well. That is absolutely magnificent, and it's been around the theatres. It was in the Melbourne Theatre Festival originally, Theo. And Melbourne at its absolute booming best in the 1880s, and what happened in the 50s and 60s when we got rid of a lot of those buildings. Wonderful
It's
film.
an Australian film.
Yeah.
And it's like a documentary type film. Right, okay.
Wonderful, Pam. Wonderful film. I've seen it and absolutely loved it. It's The Lost City of Melbourne. If you see it anywhere, whether it's on a streaming service or on a theatre. Pam, were you as fascinated as I was with some of those old theatres and so on?
Oh, yes. I mean, when I grew up, we had lots of local theatres that we could walk to every Saturday, and now, of course, they're not there anymore. But anyway, it's a very interesting film to see if you're looking.
Extraordinary.
People are wondering where things went.
Yeah, and whatever happened to. Extraordinary film. Thank you, Pam. Good to hear from you. That's a beauty, Theo.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Pam. And look, Pam mentioned obviously that movie, and you mentioned earlier when you were speaking with Adam in the previous segment, Richard Harris, who's an amazing actor. He's in one of my favourite films called Cromwell. And he plays Oliver Cromwell.
Yeah.
I think Anthony McGuinness?
Yes.
I forget his name. He played King Charles I.
Yeah.
And he was also obviously in Gladiator playing Marcus Aurelius.
That's right.
So I thought I'd just mention that.
Oh, yeah. And not to mention MacArthur Park. Now, a friend of mine's texted me, Keith Fleming. Hello, Keith. Good to hear from you. The South Melbourne Dunnies became a restaurant. Now, they were the end of Kerford.
Sorry, what?
Yeah. No, there were these toilets at the end of Kerford Road as you come to the Esplanade or come to a Beaconsfield Parade, and they were originally toilets. And some years ago, because Keith's my vintage, became a terrific restaurant. And I think it was a hairdresser for a while, but originally toilets.
So they were a private. Is it? The toilets were private.
The
council.
There must have been.
Right.
I don't know how many toilets are private. I think they must have been council owned.
Right,
The council leased the land, but became a magnificent restaurant cafe, and I'm pretty sure a hairdresser at some stage. Thank you, Keith. That's what we're from a toilet to a restaurant. You know where you're thinking, and you'd have to make a joke of it on the menu. You'd have to do something, wouldn't you? Or was the original plumbing there?
Maybe
surely.
they've got a toilet just sort of on show there.
Something.
Yeah.
Cool. What was it called? Call it the wooden seat or something. Anyway, and the first reviewers were flushed with success. All that. More calls after the break.
This is the Weekend Break with Peter Grubby Stubbs.
Theo, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the Variety Hour, talking about buildings, and we've got Hilly's Chocolates and Billy Clegg rang in about Ron Clegg and all sorts of things to talk about. Thanks for coming in.
It has been an honour. Thanks for having me.
Good. Movember?
Yeah, look, as we know, Movember is an annual, I guess, initiative these days. And as you can see, I don't have a mow, so I'm not...
But you're on your way.
Well...
Shave the bit of growth.
Look, I was going to ask you, what do you think? Should I do that? Because you can also do other things to support the cause.
No, you're rocking a mow.
All right. Well,
rocking a mow. And
I've got
I want
no choice now.
No, and I want a bit of handlebar action.
Okay, let's do it.
Theo, we'll be looking out for you. Good luck in Hard Quiz. We'll catch you next time you're with Dennis. Pleasure to have you. Coming up after the news, it's Planes, Trains, No Automobile.